How to improve my running pace. Hi, it's Neil here from therunworks.com, and I want to spend a few minutes to talk about improving our running pace. So my first key message is everyone has their own pace, and we need to accept the fact that whatever your pace is right now, that is what it is. We all want to be a little bit faster, or we all want to understand how to improve our pace, hence why you're here. But we need to first off accept that whatever pace we have at the moment, that's what it is, and this is how to improve it. So it doesn't really matter whether you're looking to improve your pace for a 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon, or ultra. The same principle applies here, and I want to talk about our anaerobic threshold, interval training, and training smart on session to bring about a physiological response and a psychological response as well, so that when we hit race day, or when we hit that point where we want to improve our pace and see a particular time for a particular distance, it shows up. So at the moment, I've got a couple of 10Ks coming up. I've got one in mid-Feb and one in mid-March. And you can see I'm specifically aiming towards, on this top left image, 10K distance. Now, my first point is I wasn't aiming for 10K today. I was aiming for a particular set of training intervals. And if we look at this middle image here, we can see that I was doing 600 meters work, 200 meters recover. And when I mean work, I mean that's my best effort. We're looking, 85, 90% maximum effort for 600 meters and then 200 meters recover. And today's recovery pace was around 40 to 45%. So significantly lower for me to recover, to go back out again and do another 600 meters. And you can see on the middle image here, but we did four sets. So there's set number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in each set, there was 3 intervals. So 600 meters, 200 meters recover, times by 3, and that made up my one kind of full set, or one full repetition. So again, my goal here, the objective of this session was to complete 4 sets, and then that made up my 10K distance. So it's making it clear that it's not all about distance when it comes to managing my pace. We're looking at challenging our pace throughout or during a set of intervals, or an interval approach. So my next key point I want to bring you down to is I did this, if you look on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, I did this on a track. Now, although the track isn't specific to the 2 races I have coming up, which are road races, so there's a whole host of street furniture for and other people, other competitors, there's curbs, there's things to move around, corners, etc., etc., lampposts, benches, other people on the route as well, because it's not a closed road on that day that's coming up. But the sports track allows me to train in a very safe environment. There's no obstacles. I don't have to think about anything else other than the interval in hand. So if you have got access to a track, go and hunt it down. They're very, very cheap. I think I paid this morning £1.60, and that gave me a couple of hours on the track. And it was absolutely perfect to do a structured warm-up, get right into the 600 meters, 200 meters, because it's all marked out on the track, and then do an effective cool down. So let's look at this middle image just here, okay? So ignore my 4:45 pace to my best effort, because it's going to be skewed by the rest and recovery for this session. Now, the white line is my average, okay? And my best effort is 2:33. But I want to highlight that my pace is my best effort, pushing as hard as I can for the 600 meters. And then the 200 meters, 40%. And at the end of those 3 repetitions, I then had a 2-minute recovery just here before I went back out and did it again. And you can see overall, I start off pretty quick, and then I'm consistent throughout. But because I've got this recovery of 200 meters and then the 2 minutes in between each set, I can remain or keep my pace as high as possible, much faster and harder pace than I would be able to maintain and sustain for a flat out 10K. So I'm allowing my body to physiologically and anatomically move with speed, forward velocity, move through that structure and get a full range of movement. Whereas if I went out for my 10K kind of best effort through training or, just a standard run, I'm going to fatigue after 6, 7 kilometers, maybe even earlier, which now means I'm not focusing on my high hips or my knee drive or toes pointing up or my heart to the sky or my shoulders nice and relaxed back and down on my arm drive. I'm focusing on completing the 10K. But because I've got structured rest here for 200 meters and then 2 minutes after each set, I can realign physiologically, psychologically. I can get myself into a good start position with my posture nice and tall and give it my all and give it my best effort, which means my ankles, knees, hips, my spine, my torso, my shoulders, all key joints are allowed to go through a full range of movement, and I can really home in my running technique. And that's what's going to drive my pace. I need to train specifically. I need to allow my brain to connect to the joints. I need to train my brain to connect to the muscles, to know what it feels like to go through a full range of movement in a safe and effective way. And if we compare that to my heart rate on the right-hand side, you can see clearly as I go through the duration of a session, my heart rate goes up. And you can clearly see the 2-minute recoveries and the walking, well, not walking, but 40% effort on the 200-meter recovery. It's really a slow, gentle plod. But again, on that, I want to quickly highlight, going off on a tangent here, that recovery doesn't mean that I slouch my shoulders and I forget all of my postural cues for running, my running technique. I use my recovery to home in those skills one step further. So you can see, going back to my heart rate, that it matches the effort of my heart physiologically, matches the graph for my pace. Okay, so I go through the duration of a session. And this data, this feedback is really, really key. I can see here that I've got my average heart rate of 143, which is just below my anaerobic threshold. So for the majority of that session, not only was I moving faster than I usually do, but I was also working aerobically, which means I'm utilizing oxygen. I am able to transport and deliver that around the body effectively and use that to create further energy to bring about the response of running. Whereas, let's say my average heart rate was, say, 160, that would be above my anaerobic threshold, which means I'm not solely relying on oxygen. I'm utilizing here stored glucose, stored sugar inside the muscle, which will deplete super, super quickly. It would be like trying to drive down the motorway in first gear and constantly redlining it. You're going to burn out the engine. And that's exactly what we do when we go above our anaerobic threshold. So these two graphs of my Garmin provide clear evidence that not only am I improving my pace, and it's a consistent pace. I was doing 600 meters in around 2 minutes 9 was my average, but it varied from 1 minute 59 to 2 minutes 14. So very, very consistent. But I was working aerobically, which means I'm challenging my aerobic system, and I've got these peaks here in my first interval, a little bit in my second, third, but certainly in my final 2 intervals here, or 2 sets rather, I am going into that anaerobic place. Now, I can't maintain or sustain being in an anaerobic position for too long. So if this were a 10K race, we'd be talking about the first 6 kilometers working aerobically and then ducking and diving in and out of that anaerobic threshold line for remaining 4K, which is perfectly doable. I'll accept that one any day of the week. So when I'm thinking about, what course corrections, what do I have to tweak in my training in order to get to that start line come mid-February and mid-March, that is specifically going to make my heart, lungs, muscles, joints adapt so I get my best effort or improve my running pace. And it's looking back at, going out with a plan, doing the exercise, of course, doing the work, but then looking back at the data, the feedback that your watch is giving you, and analyzing that and trying to recognize any trends. So moving forwards in terms of challenging my running pace, okay, if I continue to do this for a couple more weeks, the next session I might do 4 repetitions per set. So you can see here I'm just doing the 3. I'm doing 600 meters work, 200 meters times by 3. I might do 4 next week and again do 4 sets. Or I could keep it as the 3, but instead of doing 4 sets, I could do 5 sets, and the following week 6 sets. So consequently, this is going to challenge again my physiological, my heart, lungs, my ability to transport and utilize oxygen. But it's also going to really challenge my anatomy, my body, my structure, my skeletal system to move through a full range of movement effectively and hold good, proper running techniques. So, landing and striking the floor under my hips, having a strong knee drive. Maintaining 90 degrees in the ankle and having my toes pointing to my nose as I drive the knee forwards, having my torso nice and upright without, limited to no rotation, allowing my arms to drive back forwards and backwards with no arms crossing. And that's what's going to improve my running pace, because I'm going to be more efficient. So this type of interval not only allows me to push to my best effort and improve my pace and my heart and lungs, but it also improves my ability to challenge or go through that full range of motion, which is absolutely key compared to just going out for a run and training for distance or training for a particular time or training to burn a set number of calories, whatever the goal would be. So I wanted to consider the possibility that what you're doing is not necessarily wrong. It's just a much smarter way, or a smarter way to go about training to bring about your goal that you're after. And I want to point you towards therunworks.com. On there, if you click on the homepage, you'll see Start Training Now, and there's loads more videos to guide you towards being a smarter runner, being a better runner. So we're looking at the science and the drills behind making runners work better, whether that be foam rolling and stretching, whether you've got questions around nutrition, or even if you're just starting out and you're working towards your couch to 5K, and you've got a few sessions under your belt, and you're thinking, how do I move a little bit quicker? My pace always seems to be at, let's say, 8-minute miles, and you want to just get that little bit quicker and improve your running pace, then head over to therunworks.com, start training, and go from there. But if you've got any specific questions about how to improve my running pace, drop them below. There's a number of strategies to do it. This is just one of many kind of within the toolbox, the arsenal to kind of deploy, which is interval training. Then drop them below. Outside of that, hit like and subscribe, and you get all of the future notifications as well. And I will see you on the next video. Take care.